All right, final product overview. Wanted to show you guys how to make or to go about thinking about making your final product. Remember, it's going to be doesn't have to be related to your first one. And that's just because I'm flexible. Because maybe you want to do a different movie, or maybe you want to do a different band. It would be nice if they're both related. A Night Visions, Imagine Dragons album cover, followed by a poster for them. So I would kind of push you in that direction. So this poster one for the second final product, the size, and if you ever want to check and double check that you have the right size of a document, go up to image, canvas size, make sure that inches here is checked and not pixels or something else, and 13 width by 19 height. If you want to make sure that your resolution is accurate, then you'd go to image size, and you want to make sure this is 300. I have mine at 72, so I should have made that at 300. Make sure yours is at 300. And then, yeah, how do we create this? I'm only using this for screen, which is why I didn't really care about 300. If I was gonna print this out, you'd want to have it at 300, which is why you need to have it at 300. All right. So the walkthrough process. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. So here was the original picture. So whenever you're creating a composite, you need at least two pictures, right? Because you're making a composite. So for my first picture, it's night visions. Think about something that sort of relates. So Imagine Dragons, night visions, this kind of apocalyptic scene. It's this kind of weird creature with looking thing. I thought it would go together and make a good poster with this idea of their titled song, Night Visions. So these are my two pictures. This creature here with human feet and this background. And all I did with this background is I needed to get rid of this, obviously. So how did I do that? Well, first I got a selection of them. So Command plus, kind of zoom in here. And I don't want to get a detailed selection, right? I'm not trying to get around them just perfectly as I can. I actually kind of want the opposite. I want some space between them. So as I'm going here, and this is kind of the same idea for anything you might want to try and get rid of. You want to circle it like so, create some space, and then you're going to go, it's an edit, so we're going to go to edit, and we're going to go to content aware fill. Now this will do a pretty good job, as you see there. So here's the preview. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. There's some areas of duplication, so we're going to maybe mess with this just a little. I'm going to hit Command negative to zoom out. So what's going on here? So the selected area is what we've told Photoshop to, hey, I want to get rid of this, and I want you to use the green areas. I want you to take from the green areas to cover what is in my selection here. So I can paint in and out where I want Photoshop to read the image in order to cover up this part of my selection. So I don't really want to use the building. I just want to use really the ground. So I'm going to get my negative here, and I'm going to paint out where I don't want Photoshop to read in order to cover up this image. So I'll do that, see, and then back here at my preview, see if it does a better job, and does a pretty good job. Maybe I'll erase some more here, see what happens. So that's looking pretty good. I don't know, let's move some more. Every time you do it, it kind of adjusts and does a So I'm going to do this. Okay, so that's pretty good. So I basically got it to where I thought it was pretty good. And then you want to, so here's the preview tab. I want to come over where it says content aware fill. And then I'm just going to click on OK. And it applies that non-destructively, which is nice, on its own, on a new layer. Which means on this layer, that it did those non-destructive edits, I can continue to work on it a little bit. In which case I would come to my my healing brush tool. Make sure current and below is selected. And I would, like right here where this is a clear duplication, I would cover that up. Find a place I want to cover that up there. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. And just carefully make edits so that it looks more real. And then kind of zoom out and see what I'm working with. So right here, you want to avoid patterns because those stand out. So right here and right here is a pretty glaring pattern. So I would hold my Alt or Option key, select that, and just kind of cover that up. So that's what I did, and I wound up with this edit, and then I just did a composite of it right here. So if you don't remember what the composite is, that's where I had these two selected, and then I put on my top one, Shift, Alt or Option, Command E, and just made a single picture of those two edits there. And I can hide those. And then I brought in my other guy, and I just kind of increased him. First I had to get him, cut out from his background. And I actually did a similar thing to him. Let me show you what I did with him. I have to reopen him up. Well, I'll save that for another video so this one's not too long. So I got my creature, put him in the right place, and I did a neural filter, right? So I right-clicked on him, convert to smart object, and I wanted to harmonize these two pictures in terms of their lighting and some of their color so that they looked better together as a single picture. So I clicked on him, filter, and then I went up to neural filters. You might remember this from the first day of class. Harmonization, and then you select the layer you want to harmonize this creature with, in which case it was my edited layer here, and then you can kind of control the strength and whatnot. And I adjusted that, and I want to output to a smart filter layer. And so this is where I was. So this was the picture I just cut out from its own background, and then I added that neural filter to try and harmonize these two colors. And then I wanted to further harmonize those colors, so I did a photo filter, very subtle. That's just down here. It's an adjustment layer. You can see photo filter there. And I didn't choose a filter here. I just clicked on a brown color to apply across this whole everything below it. And then I did another color balance layer, another kind of subtle, bringing right here, color balance. And I just kind of adjusted some of these colors going on here so that they were closer together again. And then I did a color lookup. That's another adjustment layer. Color lookup. If you take a look at those, you have a bunch of preloaded ones. And I just went through here and selected different ones until I kind of got the one that I liked, that I thought looked good. And then I applied the gradient that I liked, which was this one, kind of made and adjusted here. Because I'm going for kind of like a dream, kind of night visions, you're asleep, you're dreaming. And let's see, after that, I did my text. So I typed out my word, night visions, arranged it, got it behind the creature, but in front of this, obviously. And then I did my blur filter to that, converted it to a smart object, and did my field blur, only a field blur and an iris blur here to it. As you can tell, the direction of my iris up here, there's no blur, but it's blurring the letters outside of the iris. And then I wanted to blur a little bit more of the letters, so I added a field blur, checked that box and started adding different field blur to my letters. And I got that. And then it's just continuing the design process from there. I got this texture, and this is just um, something I found off the internet basically. This weird kind of textured circle thing. And I got it, set it to a darker color blend mode and positioned it right there. This was just purely experimental. I just kind of wanted something right there in the center. And then I set it to a blend mode, and it worked. It looked good. And then continued from there. I did some lines, basic elements of art. And here's each of these were done with a shape tool, and I used my rulers to help me with this. So up here you can see I have a ruler going horizontally and one vertically, and you can pull these out as guides, place them on your paper or your document. So that's all I did. I placed one here, placed another here, and another here, and I just kind of liked the way it was looking, so then I used my pen tool and I created the shapes. As you can see, just used the black stroke. I wasn't thinking about the color yet. Black stroke, no fill, 1.5 points. And then if you want to get rid of your guides, you can just drag them. You have to drag them off and into the ruler, or you can just go up to View, Clear Guides, and that'll just clear them. So I did that with my lines, selected them all, selected one, held my Shift button, selected the rest, threw them into a folder, just clicked on that, and then this is just a solid fill adjustment layer, solid color right here, adjustment layer, and then I clipped it into my lines, and then I just kind of cycled through and found the color that I liked, that I thought that they looked good with. Now, as you can see here with my lines, I had to get a selection of my creature because I wanted the lines. I could have had them going in front of him like that, but it just seemed distracting. But I couldn't move my lines below the creature because then my gradient map would be altering and changing the color of the scion of the lines. So I just command clicked my creature and then clicked on this folder with all of my lines and made a quick mask so that those lines just went behind him. And then the rest, night visions, I just typed out night visions. And then, so like so, night visions, don't want to clip it. Make it bigger so you can see it. And Command T, held my Shift button so that it would go at about 45, these angles. And then I just moved it over here, obviously, to the side. Got a different type. Same thing with Imagine Dragons. Threw it up there in the corner. And then, nearing the finish line, from here, I wanted to do my final camera raw edit. So, selected my last one, Shift, Alt, or Option, Command E. Made a composite of everything that's visible turned on with the eye here. Oh, I forgot. I also did these squares as an added thing, and these are just what they are, right? I just made a square with my square tool. Filled it this one with a yellow color, but as you can tell, each one of these, most of them are set to linear burn. This one I set to divide just because it looked good that way where it was. And I think yellow is, most of them are, I think maybe all of them are yellow. Some of them are green, some of them are yellow because it creates a slightly different effect. So like here, right here at this eye, it's green. It's just a green square set to linear burn, and as you move it in different parts of your picture, it just kind of gives a cool effect. So I liked it over his eye. So I did that just as an extra kind of design fun part of my work. And then the final camera raw right here. And I added the noise filter to it. And Not much else in terms of the actual camera raw edits. Sometimes most of the time, whenever it comes to camera raws, a lot of what you're doing is up here in the basics, and it'll be making something darker, adjusting, increasing contrast, which includes not just the contrast slider, but how you handle the whites in your image and the shadows, maybe making them a little bit darker, increasing the whites a bit more, increasing the blacks a little bit more, um, clarity, vibrance. And whenever you're in here as well in this camera raw, if you click here, you can toggle and see this was the before and this is the edits you did after. Or you can click here and you have the before you've made any edits with the camera raw, and then to the right here are the actual camera raw edits. So you can see that the contrast is notably increased in the before or in the after. So to give you an example of what I mean here, let's just go to not a basics, but color mixer. Let's just mess with one here, and there you can see what's happening in the after one. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I'll hit OK. And once you do this, I can turn off the camera raw filter here, and you can kind of decide which one you think is better. Typically, increased contrast is going to be better. And then my textures on top of that, some archival paper that I set to multiply. So there it is, just paper, set to multiply, give that textured effect. And then one more piece of paper with some scratches on it, also set to multiply. And that is the end of creating this poster for Imagine Dragons.